Today, guys, we're going to make a dumbbell in Blender. Stay tuned. This is the reference image that we're going to build from. All right, to get started, let's go ahead and delete the default cube. And before we get started, we want to game plan this thing out. So I'm going to go to the annotation mode here at the pen, and I'm just going to kind of draw a quick schematic of the dumbbell we're going to build. So this is essentially what you're looking at is you can look at it as a front view or the side view. And what I want to mainly do is kind of figure out what my measurements are, because I want to build this one to scale. I went ahead and found a real dumbbell and measured it. This is based off of a 50-pound dumbbell that I personally own. It looked like the reference image. However, having the real thing's always better because you can measure it. So what you're seeing up here is basically me writing down the measurements, because in this video I want to make sure that this is part of what you learn to do. Next image up here that you're looking at is I'm sketching out the side of the weight. So the dumbbell has the two weights on the side and then a handle in between. And you're seeing the outer edges. So the points are a little bit wider or longer, you can say, than the sides of it. And you'll see that it's like a ½ inch difference on each side. And this really is going to give me a realistic real world measurement. That's kind of important when you start modeling products and different things in Blender, because it can affect the way the light hits it. It can affect other aspects. It can also, think about it like if you're doing products, when you have one product beside another one, like a display or an array of products, you want to make sure that the scale is right on those. So in this video, I'm just kind of giving you an introduction to the thinking around this, because this is something typically you'll do in the real world. So there are our measurements. This gives us something to work with. I won't show this anymore in the video, but just kind of, if you need to, take a pause and look at this just to be mindful of it. Let's go ahead and start building this thing here in a second. First of all, I want to do is get rid of my default camera and my default light, because I just want to be focused on modeling and I don't want a bunch of extra stuff on the screen to look at. So I'm going to start with a 6 vertices circle. I'm going to orient it to my view and go into edit mode so I can see it a little bit better. I can actually see it very good on my screen, but on YouTube with the compression, you don't notice it as much. What I'm going to do now is use the end panel, and I'm going to manually start typing in those measurements that we saw in the drawing, just to get the scale of the circle right. Once we get that initial primitive correct, then we can start building everything else from there and not have to worry as much about scale. I'm also manually putting in the depth. Now it looks a bit deeper than a real weight. That's only because the perspective in the viewport. But you'll see here when we start looking at it in orthographic view, it's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and select these edges here now. And what I want to do is I want to start building out the outer portion of that shape. So I'm using extrude, and I'm just kind of using the G tool on the y-axis to kind of scale it out. I'm doing E and S, and then I'm doing a grid fill. So now we got this one end of it done. I am now going to go in and create a loop cut, because what I want to do is run a mirror modifier on the weight itself. So I'm going to go to X-ray mode, select these vertices on the end, I'm going to delete them. Then I'm going to go in here and select these edges. And what I want to do is I want to put the 3D cursor in the middle so that I can go back to object mode and change the origin of the geometry to the 3D cursor. That's going to tell the mirror modifier where to mirror it from. So I'm using machine tools. It's quicker, but you can do the same thing in the modifier section with the mirror modifier. Now I want to come in and I want to restrict where my subdivision surface modifier curves things. So I'm creating some edge loops around key pieces of this shape where I want it to retain this shape once I run that modifier. If I didn't do this, what you would see is this whole 6 shape circle here would turn into basically a sphere, a spherical looking object. So I'll get all these selected, and once I get these guys here selected, you'll see I'll do a small bevel on these as well. I'm just going in here and making sure I got everything selected. All right. I'm changing that to outer miter to arc. A little bit cleaner effect. Now keep in mind I have not applied the mirror modifier yet, which when you see I'll click in here and I'm going to try to edit the back side of it, and because I had forgotten that I'd run a mirror modifier and it wasn't applied yet right here. So what I'm going to do is go back in here because I need that to be geometry I can change. So I'm going to apply that mirror modifier, which is a destructive action, and now it's applied. I'm going to inset this little face in here because from here is where I'm going to pull the handle out. I'm going to use an extrude to pull it out, and we do have a measurement for it as well. So let's go to orthographic side view, and let's start pulling this handle out, and then I can go in the end panel and manually type in the length of the handle. Now, I'm going to repeat the steps I did before. I'm going to move the 3D cursor to the end of that face. I'm going to change the origin of this entire geometry to wherever the 3D cursor is, and then I'm going to run a mirror modifier on it once again. That's going to create the dumbbell because it's symmetric on both sides. Bam. So there you go. So now we got a dumbbell. And what I'll do from here is I will apply this mirror modifier. So now we've got a dumbbell that's full geometry that we can edit. Essentially, we're done with the dumbbell. So what you'll see me do here is you'll see me do some small tweaking, because when I looked at the reference images where this bar goes into the weight, it's kind of sunk in a little bit into the metal. And all I'm really doing here is I'm just mimicking that look a little bit. So I'm going to select all these faces from the inset around it. I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then I'm going to hit S and then move it inward just to kind of sink it in a little bit. And because I want my shape to basically be defined around these edges, I'm going to run a small bevel around these outer edges and the inner edges of that sinking look that I just did. And like I said, by doing that, it restricts where subdivision can just smooth everything out. And this is one little area where I tend to take my time a little bit just to get it more right than not. And if you notice, I'm holding down the shift key because that allows me to make incremental changes at a lot slower pace. I can really refine my selections by holding down shift. Now the next thing to do is tackle the knurling on this or the grippiness on this handle. So I'm creating 2 edge loops because I want to define a certain area of this. I'm going to face mode. I'm going to select my faces around this little handle. And from there, what I want to do is I want to make a duplication of this, and I want to separate it as a new object by itself. Okay, so now if you look in the outliner, I've got two objects in here. I've got the circle, and then I've got this new thing. I'm going to name the new thing knurling. I'm going to name circle B-bell, I think is what I called it, for barbell. Or, yeah. And in my version for the new object, I've gone in here and just done the knurling by poking in the faces and changing the offset. If you want a detailed tutorial on how to actually do that, let me know and I'll do it. But for the sake of the video, I skipped it. I skipped all the steps here just to shorten the video just a little bit, because I figure about everybody knows how to do this. And what you'll see is, because I'm going to run subdivision on this as well, I want to take these poked faces and I want to bevel. Basically, I'm making edge loops again. Okay, let's give it a look. Okay, I'm just kind of looking at things with subdivision turned on at level 3, shade smooth, and you can see what I was talking about where we did the little sinking in area where the bar is. Looks pretty good. I'm also doing it on the knurling piece. Just want to see what it looks like with the subdivision turned on. Yep, that's fine. Now I want to select it, and I want to select the bar itself. And what I'm going to do, take one last look at it. What I'm going to do is I want to parent the knurling to the weight itself, so that when you move one, the other one moves with it. So now we see that there's only one object. And really what it is in Blender is the knurling pieces nested inside of the other one. So we're done modeling the dumbbell. And what I want to do now is start going in here and playing with materials, just to give it a basic metallic look with a little bit of wear and that sort of thing, like you saw in the thumbnail. So first I'm going in here and I'm just turning metallic all the way up to 100%. I'm lowering the roughness a little bit. I picked like a base tone gray color. And if you notice, I'm only doing the dumbbell and not the knurling piece yet. I'm also changing my render engine to cycles. And I'm going to go in cycles. I applied an HDR, but I just did not show it. Just like I said, shorten the video. You guys have seen me do that in other videos, and I'm sure you've seen other people doing it in other videos. So I just cut that part out, but we got an HDR on it just so we can see the lighting. And I put a plane in here, and I'm just making sure the bar is sitting right up above the plane. Now, if I'd have been thinking about this, I would have turned that bar just a few degrees, because it's not going to be sitting up on the edge like that, but that's okay. I'm not rendering this for like any work or anything like that, so I won't be that level of detail, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. You would not see that bar sitting up on the edge like that. It would be on the flat, it'd be on the flat surface, or the flat side of the weight. Alright, so now I'm going in here, and what I want to do is I want to start adding in some little turbulence or noise to the look of that metal, because right now it looks way too clean. And when you see these weights in person, or if you see them even on good reference photo like the one I showed in the beginning of the video, you see there's like, you know, variances in the tonality of the metal, the color. And you'll see where I'm going with this in the video here in a second. So I add a color ramp in here, and then I add in some procedural noise, and I also add in a mapping node and a texture coordinate node, because one thing I want to do is be able to control what this looks like. Now, because it's procedural, you want to go object to vector versus generated. And basically what that does is it gets the sizing and the distribution and everything just right for that. This metal's looking pretty good. I'm making some small changes to the scale and the detail just to mimic what the weights actually looked like. Now I could have gone a step further, and I could have gone in and done some ambient occlusion and added a little rust to it. I'm thinking about doing another video down the line that kind of shows you guys that, like how to mask out different textures to create like a rust effect on a piece of metal or something like that. If there's something you guys are interested in, leave it in the comments, please, and I'll work on it for you. So now I'm going in here and I'm adding in a mixed color. What the mixed color is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to take different either images, image textures, colors, procedural pieces, and kind of blend them together, and then pipe that data in through the principal BSDF node, and then to the output so we see it on the screen. Now I want to add a bump texture to make it look as if it actually has some texture to it. And granted, bump mapping's easy on RAM, but it's smoke and mirrors. It's fakery, basically. If you want something that's more realistic, you'd want to use a displacement. Which actually, the version of this I did for the thumbnail, where you actually see the weight on it. So it had, I think it was 50. I actually used displacement for that one, but that one takes a lot more memory and it takes a little bit longer to render, and I just didn't want to do that here. But I will do it in a future video coming up with something very detailed. I'm going to have a longer video where I actually do something very, very detailed for you guys, and I'll show it to you. All I'm going to do to the knurling piece is literally copy the same material over, as you see. And now we are finished. I'm just going to put a little material on the ground plane down here just so you can see it. See the model a little bit better. Just find some nice colors that may complement with that silver tone. Something that just doesn't blow your eyeballs out. There you go. We now have a finished model. Congratulations, guys.